I'm going to be doing a walkthrough of the Fairy Blessing cards. It's an oracle deck by Lucy Cavendish, and the artist's name, I'm going to read her name at the back of the deck. The box is lovely. It's just a little bit big for the cards. The artwork is stunning. I want to read you her story. It's like really sweet about the artist. I've always been interested in fairies, but had never considered them to be a career option. At just shy of 21, I wasn't thinking much about my career at all and was content working in a small art shop. One day, my boss asked me to paint something to fill an empty frame that had been sitting around the shop. I asked her what I should paint, and she said, "I don't know, paint a fairy or something." So I did. 3 days later, the piece sold, so I decided to paint another. It sold quickly as well. I began painting fairies whenever I had spare time, and my boss was kind enough to give me a section in the shop to display them. From then on, everything evolved as if the fairies willed it so. I became more and more drawn to painting them. After a few years, I was able to become a full-time artist. More than 20 years later, I'm still painting them. I suppose the old tales of fairies capturing humans and keeping them forever might be true. My goal has always been to capture a moment in my paintings and offer that moment to the viewer to weave his or her own story. I love that. And the deck is designed by Lucy Cavendish. She's brought out lots of beautiful decks. It was published in 2019, so it's a fairly new one. The first few pages, she goes into quite a bit of detail on working with the deck and fairies, and she even gives information about the different seasons, and well, she's got all these words here that she's explaining. How to help the fairies in return to heal the earth. Some of the many kinds of fairies within the world. The seelie and unseelie. So not all fairies are benevolent. So you've got to be careful. You've got to protect yourself if you're going to work with them. I don't really work with them. I have done a little bit, but I'm a bit nervous. But anyway, I really wanted to get this deck, and I've worked with it for a few days now, and I've really been enjoying it. Okay, I'm going to run through the cards. They're in numerical order, and then we'll do a draw. So, number 1, a blessing of the seelie. I think I'm going to put the thing that side. Number 2, a blessing of the unseelie. I'm just going to move this, put them on top like that. Number 3, a blessing of the butterfly queen. Number 4, a blessing of rapture. Number 5, a blessing of honesty. This card had a powerful effect on me. A blessing of stillness. A blessing of Airmid. I'm not too sure what that is yet. A blessing of movement. A blessing of Ain. A blessing of connection. A blessing of the shining ones. A blessing of Arwen. Arwen is the druid word. A blessing of Nymphy. That looks so wild. A blessing of the white heart. A blessing to undo an unfortunate curse. A blessing of the green. A blessing of elf locks. a blessing of the sight, a blessing of dreams, a blessing of glamour, a blessing of the Beltane dew, a blessing from the ever young, a gift of laughter, a blessing of the wild within, a blessing of power. Wow, look at that. It's like a mermaid behind her. The blessing of the mothers, the gift of sharing, a blessing of the liminal space, a blessing of time, a blessing of Lita, a blessing of the grouping Fae, a blessing of stability, a blessing of fairy magic, a blessing of Bridget's flame. Oh, I love that. I work with Bridget. Yeah, she isn't my matron goddess, but I love her energy. A blessing of belief, a blessing of healing, a blessing of Anangara, a blessing on the heart's calling. I just found this deck so mysterious, I can't wait to delve into it. A blessing from Queen Mab, I think it's Mav. That's one of the goddesses. A blessing of clear foresight, a blessing of a fairy guardian, a blessing of a light touch, a blessing of being understood. That's nice. A blessing of a safe place in the world. A blessing from a fairy determined to help you. Okay, I'm going to pick a card and then we will see. I can't get my tripod to work properly. It keeps on, as soon as I set up the tripod, it slips. So I have to hold it, which is such a pain. So I'm just going to cut the cards a few times. They're quite large to shuffle, but I prefer larger cards because of my eyes. I feel I can see the art better. So I'm just going to cut a few times. Let's grab this one. A blessing of a fairy guardian. It was actually one of the last ones we picked. Well, the last ones I showed. And let's see what the guidebook says. A fairy gift of magical protection and lifelong true loving care. At your birth into this world, human child, a fairy came to you and offered you the blessings of your soul. For each of us, this blessing will be unique, created especially for the journey we are destined to take in this lifetime. So with this blessing, may you know again the beauty and sweetness of your own fairy godmother, your fairy guardian, for she is still with you, helping to ease the way and remind you, as often as she is able, to pierce the veil that you are her charge. As often as she is able to pierce a veil, that you are her charge, and she will remain with you all the days of this life. May you now feel the presence of her love. May you feel that sense of being looked out for, that there is one being from the elemental world who works with your soul and helps you at all times. When this blessing comes, tune into her presence and know that all about you there is comfort and goodness and a way to move through all difficulties. Your fairy guardian has always been with you this lifetime and will remain until you have journeyed on. Know you are her most precious charge, and when times become troubled and life seems bleak, know there's a being whose duty it is to bring you back to hope, to optimism, to the sense that you are a gifted, cherished being. Feel now the love of the fairy guardian, your own fairy godmother, and believe again in your own blessedness. What a beautiful message. This card was the first one I picked. I got myself this deck for my birthday, and I picked it on my birthday, and it says, "You were born with a fairy guardian." I thought that was quite apt. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my walkthrough. Bye.